On today's podcast, we're talking about the holistic approach to an individual who has high wealth. This is an important topic, and it's one we should talk about a heck of a lot more. That's why today we have Dr. Greg Charlop. He's joining us from Atlanta. Let me just talk a little bit before I hand over the mic to Greg, because we talk about longevity of health. We talk about how important it is not to burn out, but we don't talk about it enough, not just from our own perspective as professional fundraisers, but also from the perspective of the donor, because we're so fixated on that relationship being more than just a transaction. And so today we talk a little bit more about what if it was a lifestyle? What if it was something that we did on a regular basis and we looked at the individual as a person and not as a donor? And if we did that, what would the advantage be and the win-win for everyone involved? So Dr. Greg Charlop, we're excited to have you here with us today. He is an executive coach, and he's recognized as a wellness and a burnout expert. Dr. Greg is also regularly on media outlets such as ABC, NBC, CBS, Forbes, and Fox. And beyond clinical medicine, he's a physician consultant and also the author of 4 books. After training at Stanford and UCLA, he spent years on the front lines of healthcare, treating adults and children with uncontrolled pain and complicated medical issues. And beyond that, he went to Beverly Hills and Hollywood to partner with some of the more elite plastic surgeons, celebrities, and executives that flew in from all across the country. So Dr. Greg has founded the Women's Sports Forum to help deal with a lot of those issues that elite professional athletes have. In collaboration with Olympians and leaders of NFL, LPGA, media, law, medicine, Dr. Greg improves the lives of countless athletes. Gosh, I am exhausted just reading that list, but certainly, Dr. Greg, it's good to have you here. I have 2 questions for you. One is, how did you get into this line of work? And the second is, why are you doing so much? Stop making this look so bad.
I'll tell you, a lot of it just stems from the fact that I think I get bored easily. I'm a physician by training, but I would say that I've always liked other things. A high schooler, I decided I wanted to be a doctor. And so after that, the next steps were clear. I needed to work hard to get into college. And then from college, I needed to work hard to get into medical school. And then from medical school, I had to work hard to get into residency, and then work hard to get into fellowship, and then find a job. There was this whole long path created for me that was a result of one decision that I made when I was 16. And that decision of 16-year-old Greg determined the next, I hate to think of numbers, 30-something years of my life without much thought after that. It was all based on that one decision. And so I didn't truthfully give much thought until recently, but it made me think, well, where do I really want to go? What's really important to me? What really are my priorities? And truthfully, I didn't think about that because I got so caught up in the day-to-day, and my path was so clear and so easy to follow, I didn't need to do that. But once I started doing it, I realized, well, you know what? I'm neglecting my friends. Yeah, I might text them from time to time, but these are people I've known my whole life practically. I hardly ever talk to them on the phone. I haven't gone to see them in years. Yeah, I keep thinking I'll do it, but if there's one thing the pandemic taught us, it's that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I thought I'm not spending as much time with my parents as I think I should. They live near me. I see them from time to time, but I could do much better about that. That's important to me. Fitness and health is important. A spiritual side is important, and helping others is important. I realized I wasn't doing a lot of the stuff on reflection I actually thought mattered. What I did was I came with a list of what my priorities were, and I wrote them down and then asked myself, are the things I'm doing, do they fit this list? In other words, is the stuff I'm doing helping me achieve my goals, or is it like a distraction or taking me away? And I realized that a lot of the stuff I was doing, not intentionally, was not furthering what was actually most important to me. I got rid of this stuff and focused on what matters. And when it comes to stuff like philanthropy, I think most of us, if we were to really spend some time thinking what's important, in some capacity, it'll be helping others. Now, your others and my others might be different, but we all, I think at some level, want to help others. And unless you stop and think, is what I'm doing actually helping me achieve my goal of helping others? Then your actions are not following your goals. So once you know that's your goal, then the next step is to take actions to actually help your goal and to help others as part of kind of being a thoughtful person.
That's one of the key aspects I found when dealing with philanthropy, and especially with people, is that, first of all, we're all humans. The one thing that you can't buy is time. When you think of the people who listen to this podcast, philanthropy professionals, philanthropists themselves, the burnout's huge. How do you get someone to consider longevity of life when they can't get through the next 24 hours without feeling burnt out?
That's an excellent question. If you have all the money in the world and money is on an
Mm,
object, what would be your focus?
mm,
And almost everybody's focus would be, I want to live a longer, healthier life. Money's great. We all like money, but what does money do for you if you're not well? There's an old saying, you could have a million problems, but as soon as you're not feeling well, you only have one problem.
right.
And health and wellness and longevity are really one of the most important things. But ultimately, if you're not feeling well, or if you know someone who's sick, or you hear about someone who's doing poorly, it refocuses you on the fact that longevity is really it. And burnout is for people across fields. I've seen it in
Mm,
doctors, they're burning out like crazy,
mm,
investors, finance people, money managers, lawyers, you name it, whatever the discipline is, teachers, people are burning out today. I think the pandemic probably helped bring some of this into focus for people. But I think what people are realizing is that we're getting more isolated. We are
mm.
losing touch with each other. We're losing touch with nature and our natural surroundings. We're more focused on just spending time on our screens and our phones. And I think that people feel lonely, isolated. They don't really know why they're here. They feel disconnected. And that really hurts a lot of people.
I mean, certainly, if you are, when you're a kid, you're trying to find your place in this world and discover who likes you, what you like, that kind of thing. And as you get older and more affluent, you think those problems go away. That's the logic of money makes things go away. But the reality is that, from my experience anyway, talking to affluent people, is that there is an isolation. You're right. There's also some pride there, I think. Your model's really interesting. This concept of who do you go? Well, what is your care team? Because it has to be beyond just the office visit. And how did you come up with this concept? People probably, if they sat down, thought, yes, we should look at this as a holistic way, but they're so focused on dealing with the issue that's in front of them. So, how did you broaden that kind of perspective to be all about the person in all these different dynamics as opposed to just what's the issue that they're coming to talk to you about?
I'll tell you, you're right. I agree with what you said that affluent people, in many ways, are more isolated
Mm,
than everyone else. And I'll give you an example to make it real. Let's say you're a marketing manager, something in a company, an important job, but you're not at the top. You have a lot of peers in your company. You've got your colleagues, you've got people maybe a little above you, a little below you, people at your level. You could have friends in your company. And as adults, a lot of our friends come from work, for better or worse. But let's say you're the CEO of the company. You don't really have friends there anymore because everybody's below you. Everybody's afraid of you. No one wants to antagonize you. Plus, you're probably at least a little suspicious that they may be just kissing up to you because they want something. And so, oddly enough, when you're at the top level, you're actually frequently more isolated. You have fewer colleagues. You're also under more stress and there's more weight on your shoulders in many respects. And so for affluent people, it's I think the problem of isolation can even be a bigger problem. Plus, you're worried about who's talking to your kids, what's everybody doing. And that's why I think that if you're working with affluent clientele, focusing, as you say, on holistic issues, meaning not just how you're investing your money or strategies to avoid taxes, but let's take a look at your lifestyle.
hmm
Or do you have enough time for wellness and self care? Do you have enough time for sleep? Do you have enough connection with nature or connection with your friends? Do you have enough connection with these people, even your family? And a lot of people don't. If you really want to serve affluent clients well, if you really want to be a supporter of them, you need to pay attention to these issues and make sure that we're working not just on finances and taxes, but the whole lifestyle package.
It's a great concept about connection with nature. Regardless of who you are, you're a human, get out and take a walk. I think of, gosh, this concept, even in the world I live in, you're looking at ultra high net worth individuals. You think you have to wear a shirt, a tie, a suit. Same with you as a doctor, where you have to wear and present yourself. But the, going out and talking about philanthropy or talking about wellness as you're walking, I'm sure is very therapeutic and actually opens you up to a more genuine relationship. And so, is that something you think should happen more?
I'll tell you, I just got back from Costa Rica and Panama,
Hmm.
and the people who live there are some of the happiest people in the world. When you're there, you walk out the door and there are beautiful flowers, there's trees, there's ocean breezes, there may be cool exotic animals that come up to you, which happened to us several times, or just a beautiful bird that's sitting in front of you. And you think, at the end of the day, that's the kind of stuff that makes you happy. It's not really just staring at a screen and looking at the latest reports from CNBC about how your fund is doing. And we're all human and we're all living creatures and we're all evolutionarily programmed to like to be around other living things. There's a term for it. It's called biophilia. It just makes us feel good to be around not only other people, but around animals and plants and other things. Think about it. Even if you just have a house plant that you take care of, there's something about it that feels good about that. And it's just a plant, but knowing that you're taking care of this plant and connecting with it, it makes us happier. And the trouble is, a lot of these ultra high net worth people, unfortunately, they get so pulled into focusing on their stocks and funds or managing this or that they lose track of this and they lose track of connection to nature and it leads to depression. Philanthropy is a great way of integrating yourself with other people, knowing that you're part of a larger thing, helping other people, and that makes you feel good. And those are the kind of things that ward off depression and burnout.
You've been in Beverly Hills, you've been around plastic surgeons, and you've been in places of not the same level of affluence, probably even so in a place like Texas, I think you were saying in Atlanta. Your perspective would be hugely valuable to talk about the observations in those affluent areas and those not so affluent areas. Do you see a difference if it's mental health? Obviously, wealthier people have better facilities, but societal pressures and wealth doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthier and happier.
So when I was in Beverly Hills,
Mhm.
I've noticed people buy lots of stuff. They drive cool cars. They have the best purses and everything else. A lot of them have private jets, but a lot of them were not particularly happy. And they were very stressed out. They were very overscheduled. Whatever connection they had to other people was mostly transactional. If you think about it, if you speak to someone even over lunch and you're talking about business or you want something from them or they want something from you, that isn't a real friendship. That's a transactional relationship. Now, there was a time that I lived not too long ago, actually during COVID. I spent some time in a more blue collar part of Texas. And it was shocking to me how different that was than, say, being in Beverly Hills. This is during COVID. But what I noticed is that instead of just hiding out among themselves and trying to be isolated, people did everything they could to be around other people. And what they would do is, like in the evenings, everybody there liked baseball. Someone would get one of those outdoor projectors. They would project a baseball game onto the garage door, and all the neighbors would come over. We'd hang out outside the house, have a beer or something, have a barbecue, and watch the baseball game. And all the neighborhood kids would be there running around outside playing. The adults would be there hanging out, chatting, neighbors meeting neighbors, relatives, friends, everybody came together. And it was like this pretty much every day. And whenever I come home, I would always see people playing with their kids outside or the kids playing with each other outside. They don't have private jets, they don't have coach handbags, but they're happy. They're friendly with each other. Their kids are happy and they have a real neighborhood support system. I think that sort of thing is what we want to recreate in some capacity for everybody. There's no reason why wealthy people shouldn't have that kind of joy.
Absolutely. Philanthropy, I think, plays a big part in that, because if giving is good for the soul, then it's that piece that makes you happier too. And you're right, it's the relationship, but also the lifestyle.
I think getting involved in philanthropy is a great thing for wealthy people to do. And I do think it has longevity benefits. And there's a few reasons why. One is, as you mentioned, it's good for the soul. At the end of the day, sure, you love to see your stock go up or your business be successful. But if you know that you've done something that's helped save a sick child or a homeless person or an animal or whatever it is that's important to you, that usually makes you feel better than business tasks or the routine sort of garbage that comes along with running a business or following the stock market, especially if that's all you're focused on. But I think
Mhm.
in addition to that, we touched on this a little bit, but I think it's worth exploring a little further, which is there's great research that connection is one of the most important components of longevity.
Mm,
People that are isolated die earlier.
mm,
There's just no question about it. If you do not have really any meaningful friends, you're relatively alone, or your friends are just transactional friends, people maybe you meet to do business with, statistically, you will almost certainly die earlier and your health will be worse and you'll suffer more. It's just, this is beyond age. If you want to live longer, beyond just the obvious stuff of eating well, getting enough sleep, don't smoke, don't drink to excess, exercise, that kind of stuff,
yeah.
you have to have real connections to other people. And
Mm, mm,
but philanthropy is another great way of doing that because when you meet like-minded people, when you meet people that care about the causes that you care about, you develop real meaningful relationships with these people. So not only are you doing good in the world, but you're building true, genuine connections to other people, and that will help you live longer and you have a healthier life as well.
I think that's key with ultra high net worth individuals. I think you've really hit home on that because there is a sense that, yes, you can put your name on buildings and you can be recognized and you can be focused on the awards or the position that you're being elevated to. But in reality, if you can get a group of like-minded peers together to talk about the issue that you're passionate about, and most of the time that is health related. If you or a loved one is going through something, if it's genetic or if it's a health condition, then you're going to want to put your money to that. And a lot of them are self-made and they're entrepreneurs, so they want to know what that strategy is and be part of that. And I think that's a huge insight. And I guess for me as well, when talking to a doctor about this, and you're talking about family offices and you're talking about tax advisors and health, all of these things, big pressures on someone's life. How would you recommend someone who's listening to this, who's ultra wealthy, how would you recommend they go about connecting all of these dots, especially if they're seeing the doctor?
First of all, I would say that if you're a family office leader or wealth manager watching this, getting involved with philanthropy and these issues that we're talking about today are a great way that you could set yourself apart from your competitors. There's a lot of places that someone can go to for investment advice or tax strategies. Yeah, they could go to your family office, but they can go to the person down the block or across town or anywhere else. They don't need you for that because they can find that elsewhere. It's important. I'm not saying it's not. The three main components of modern lifestyle design, as I see it, are number one, do meaningful work, but not too much of it. Number two, focus on connection, like we talked about, connection with friends, family, and nature. And number three, focus on wellness, longevity. And if you do those three things, your clients are going to love you and they're going to come back to you and they're going to stay with you and they're going to spread you through word of mouth. What you're doing is you're helping all of those. You're helping connection, you're helping wellness. Your clients are going to think and know that you're into more than just making a quick buck off them. And so they'll respect you more. And you'll develop a deeper relationship with your clients. You'll get much more word of mouth. And then say, oh, how'd you do it? You talk about it. And then you say, I did that with my wealth manager. We partnered up and we made these big charitable contributions. Your friends will get excited. And it creates this virtuous cycle of making the world a better place and making your clients happier and making you happier by getting more clients who want to work with you.
It's focus on things that matter. help others, and don't do it alone. Don't be alone, because that's not going to help your health. It's not going to help the longevity of you or others or anything. Dr. Gray, I think you're doing is fantastic. I don't know how you find the energy for it, but perhaps it is following the list of things and priorities when you were younger to really set in focus helping others. And you've certainly done that through the different forums, the conferences you've set up, the books you've written as well.